Today's speaker is Cody McGregor, who is IDHC's Diabetes Wellness Worker West. Cody is from Six Nations and Whitefish River First Nations. He was raised and spent most of his adult life in Barrie and Aurelia, and is a graduate and instructor of the Anishinaabe and Program Development at Georgian College. Cody has had the opportunity to work with students from across Ontario. As a founding member of SODI's Restore Pride Youth Initiative, Cody finds value in working with community and youth in a way that is both engaging and on the cutting edge of technological developments. So thank you, Cody, for joining us today. And that's my cue to stop sharing my screen and turn things over to you.
All right. Me go, it's Jessica. Ani, everyone. Ani Kinawea. My name is Cody McGregor, and I'm one of 4 diabetes wellness workers here at the IDHC. And if you recall from last year, we do a men's health webinar around June every year. And last year, we talked a little bit about virtual reality and things like how technology, that kind of immersive technology, can be used to better our health. And this year, I wanted to kind of try something new and exciting. Again, try and push the limits with technology. And I know it's not a whole much using the Zoom feature, the Zoom polling feature, but that's what we'll be doing today. We have 20 awesome questions we're going to line up, and hopefully we'll learn something new. I know I did when I was putting it all together. There's so much to talk about with men's health, and so I'm really excited for it. So let's bring it up so you can have an idea of what it is I'm talking about when I say our men's wellness trivia. So June is Men's Health Month, like National Men's Health Awareness Month here in Canada. And what a great opportunity, especially since Father's Day is right around the corner. It snuck up on us. It's already this Sunday. And First Nations Day is on Monday too. So a really busy and a nice long weekend for folks. So as Jessica was saying, this quiz is anonymous. Your names won't be attached to your answers. 20 questions, covering a variety of topics, everything from mental, emotional health to different medical conditions, preventions, screening techniques, really a grab bag of everything. So hopefully there's something for you in here. I'm sure there will be. So let's slowly ease into our first question. Oh, and I guess a little bit about myself. My pronouns are he and him. I'm the father of 2 wonderful children. Not on today, but really, really nice. And so men's health is really important to me. I mean, I have a lot of my colleagues and friends who are pushing into our late 30s, early 40s, sometimes even their 50s. A lot of folks are managing different conditions, such as type 2 diabetes, and I'm coming to that age now where a lot of my friends are going in to get screened, different things, prostate exams. My dad's got Crohn's, so I mean, regular checkups are the discussion that happen in my inner circle. So this is really a topic that's near and dear to me, and I'm really excited to be able to talk about it with you. So let's kind of ease into the first question here, just so we get the lay of the land and see how this all works. What I'll be doing is I'll move us to a question. Question 1 being, it's a true or false question. Men are less likely to see their doctor than women. And the next step is I will launch the poll, which you will be able to see starting in 2 seconds. Yes, I want to do that. Okay, there we go. Men are less likely to see their doctor than women. True or false? True or false? Men are less likely to see their doctor than women. We'll leave it open for a few more moments. I think this is a really good first question because it kind of sets the tone and gives us a good view of how men perceive health, how the majority of men, can't speak for everyone, but how a lot of us perceive our health. Uh, so let's close it out there. Wow. Okay, so I will share the results with you all to see uh, how people answered. I think a lot by a landslide. Anonymously, we say that that's a true statement. So let's check it out and see what the facts are to back that up. It is true. So you're all right. Men are definitely less likely to have regular checkups, regular visits to their family doctors. And this is for a number of reasons. It's hard to pinpoint one that works for everyone, but we think about the idea that society has this view of men and rough, tough, kind of group, and this kind of like machismo prevents people from seeing their doctors for some reason, which is we got to break past that. So even an event like today where we're promoting different health facts and things like that, we really want to make sure people are getting out and get checked. Yeah, so that's really good. Pop-up should appear with the poll questions. So let's move into the second question. Slow and easy, and we'll make sure that everybody's with us. Our second question is, all serious health conditions show obvious symptoms. And let me share this question with you. It should be up on your screen now, whether you're on a desktop, or on a tablet, or a mobile device. It should kind of take over your screen and give you the option to answer. All serious health conditions show obvious symptoms. All serious health conditions showing obvious symptoms. Give a few more moments for people to answer. Not this question, but there's a couple curveballs in here just to give you forewarning. Alrighty, let's close it out, share the results with you. Again, anonymous results. Majority say false, some say true. It's a good question. It's a good question. Let's check out the facts to back it up. We have kind of a list of symptoms here along the side. Correct answer is false. Many serious chronic health issues develop very quietly over time. Very little signs and symptoms. It can be very, very not obvious for you to be developing some of these conditions. You would think some conditions might be like fever or headache or coughing or sneezing and stuff like that. A lot of some of these conditions are happening under the surface, and that's why it's so important for us to get regular screening. Whether you're getting blood tests or you're going to your family doctor and they're checking you out for any abnormalities. A good thing is self-assessment too. I mean, we are really our own best advocates for our healthcare. So if you're noticing something different or something new, always a good opportunity to get it checked out first, because that might be an early sign and symptom. And by the time it's presenting it, it could have been developing over time with no symptoms at all. So very important that we get regular screening. June being Men's Health Month is a great reminder for us to get out and get screened for different things. Yeah, really important. And some of those tests can be like blood tests or like X-ray imaging or kind of like ultrasound type things as well. So yeah, screen. Let's check out our next question, which is number 3. What is the best way to prevent serious illness or chronic disease, and for an example, diabetes? So let's fire it up here and see what options we get. What the heck? Give me 1 second. Stay with me here. Relaunch polling. Sure. There we go. What is the best way to prevent serious illness or chronic disease? I got a kind of a great lineup here. Things like healthy eating, physical activity, not smoking, getting regular screening from your doctor, whether that's blood test or like a physical one-over, reducing stress as well. Again, keeping in mind we're trying to prevent the onset of serious illness or chronic disease. Let's close it out here. Get everybody in there. I think we got everyone. 16. Okay. Let's check out the results. Unanimously, everyone says F, all of the above. A little bit of everything. And I would have to agree. Let's see what the stats say. Yes, the answer is E, all of the above. Healthy eating, physical activity, not smoking, regular screening, reducing stress, it all works together to build better bodies, stronger bodies, and stronger health. So we know that for diabetes for sure, but it's interesting because the combination of all these healthy behaviors is pretty good, like right across the board. Whether you're talking kidney health, or it could be respiratory illness or circulatory illness. The combination of nutrition and exercise and adequate sleep as well is huge for us maintaining a healthy immune system and just operating in peak condition. So all these things work together really, really well. And yeah, just a great opportunity to put some of that into play this weekend because it's Father's Day. Do something fun outside. Our next question, number 4. Men should start regular doctor's visits in their 30s. Let's launch this. True or false? Men should start regular doctor's visits when they hit their 30s. And they're 30 years old. And I've been telling people I'm 37, and I actually did the math. Well, I had to type it into Google. How old would I be if I was born on this date as of today? And I'm only 36. I could have sworn to you that I was 37, and apparently that's not the case. So I got a year back. I don't know where it went, probably COVID, but all right, this is really good. We got some mixed opinions on this. Men should start regular doctor visits in their 30s. A bit tough with COVID and the way things are right now, but so let's close it out and let's check out the results. This is interesting because it's a very divisive group here. So majority say true, but slightly behind that is a group that says false. So let's check out and see what the stats are on this. Should men start regular doctor's visits in their 30s? Kind of a little bit of a sneaky one. It's in the wording. It's false. There are many things that should be addressed. We should be having regular doctor's visits throughout our entire life because there's different health conditions that pop up at different times. We'll get a little bit more into that later on down the road, but especially for your earlier life folks who are like, in their 20s, late to 20s, it's great to get in, earlier than 30. Especially when you think of the lifestyles that a lot of people are living in their mid to late 20s. Things are happening so fast. You have this feeling that you're invincible. And your lifestyle might include, things like drinking or safe sex or drug use or, all this stuff is important to discuss early on as well, especially in our 30s, yes, but great to get in there in our 20s and teens and children too, right? All the way up into our senior years. So I got some people on that one, but everyone did really good. Vision tests, hearing tests, blood pressure tests, checking for testicular cancer or any abnormalities. All good to catch that stuff early. And every body is different, so it presents itself in different ways for different people at different times. So let's check out our next question. Number 5. The risk of testicular cancer drops between the ages of 40 and 60. The risk of testicular cancer drops between the ages of 40 and 60. It's kind of a tricky question too. The risk of testicular cancer drops between the ages of 40 and 60. Let's close it out and let's check out the results. Majority of everyone says false. The risk of testicular cancer drops between the ages of 40 and 60. Well, let's check out the stats and see what we can learn from this. The answer is it's true, believe it or not. That's very surprising to me too. Well, it's not 100% clear why. Men are at higher risk of developing testicular cancer in their 20s and 30s, and then later on after they hit 60 and beyond. For some reason, 40 and 50, your risk of developing testicular cancer drops, which is totally, I didn't see that coming either. And this is from Sunnybrook Hospital's statistics. And who would have thought? So I guess, it just goes to reinforce that idea that we should be getting into seeing our doctor in our early 20s and mid 20s, late 20s and stuff like that all throughout life, because these different conditions present themselves at different times. So, yep. So then they recommend that that men in your community, in your life, in your family, do regular self checks, and it never hurts to get in and get checked out by your family doctor as well. So. Let's check out our next question. It's number 6. Unlike women, men do not require, this was the results from our last question there. And this question right now, we're at number 6, is unlike women, men do not require bone density screening. Unlike women, men do not require bone density screening. Here in the background, we have a nice picture of a DXA machine, which is a dual X-ray absorptometry machine. And so I've personally never seen this one. I've never been screened for my bone density yet. But if anybody has, throw it in the chat. Let me know how long your experience with it maybe, or how long it took. But unlike women, men do not require bone density screening. I'm going to close it out here in a couple seconds. We've got a divided group as well. So 38% of people say this is a true statement. 63% say this is a false statement, that unlike women, men do not require bone density screening. So let's check out and see what the answer in fact is. There's our DXA machine. It's a couple x-rays and stuff like that. I guess how that works is it shoots 2 x-ray laser beams, and out of that, somehow I was reading about it, so I was like, how does this even work? How do they get this thing to work? But they're able to kind of see how porous the bone is and stuff like that. So very cool. The correct answer is false. Men definitely also lose bone density as we get older. Everyone does. And so screening is recommended for folks, especially after the age of 65. And it's really important that we're aware of the strength of our bones. Not that we're going to be more reckless after the age of 65 if we have really strong bones, but just knowing how fragile your bones are and being able to track that is just so important, because if we take slips, crashes, and our post 60 and our bones are weakening, we're likely to break them. And if we're already kind of working with complications, say such as diabetes, where there might be some lessened blood flow, then these wounds could take longer to heal, and there could be a lot of complications that arise from that. So yeah, super important. Get screened, and I guess play it safe, right? I say that, and in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to be snowboarding up until I'm 60 or 70, or snowboarding and skiing. We do both. And I see folks out there who are definitely not spring chickens, and it's really inspiring. But just want to make sure that everyone's safe and having a good diet that builds bone strength and things like that too is very good. So, yep, we don't want anybody falling. Question number 7. How many Canadian men will experience major depression, in their lives? This was our results for our last question. I don't know if I'm double sharing those or not. So this next question, how many Canadian men will experience major depression in the course of their lives? Is it A, 1 in 3 men, B, 1 in 10 men, C, 1 in 20 men, or D, 1 in 25 men will experience major depression in the course of our lives?
Cody, before you move on, there's a question here about the bone density test. It says, does the test hurt to get done?
Oh yeah, no, it's not invasive, and it's completely done through like the technology. It's nothing's really touching you except for you're laying on top of the bed. Yeah, good question. I'd be interested to go get that. I wonder, like, not, I mean, not to clog down the medical system because I'm sure people need it more than me, but I would be, fascinated, and I kind of do that. I got my HbA1c test done a couple of years ago. We'll talk a bit more about that down there, but yeah, good question. So, how many Canadian men will experience major depression in the course of our lives? A variety of answers there. About 80% voted. Let's move on in here. Oop, there we go. And let's check it out. So let's share the results. We're all over the board on this one. And this is a tough question because how many people do really suffer from depression? And I guess it can be a bit challenging because how many people are maybe reporting their depression as well too, right? So kind of a tricky answer. But majority of people say A, 1 in 3, which sounds pretty good to me. But the correct answer is B, 1 in 10. So 10% of men experience major depression in their lives. And when I say that 1 in 3 sounds pretty good to me, I think that sometimes a lot of people's depression goes underreported because there's a lot of stigma surrounding mental health and men seeking mental health. And there's this idea that men have to be super tough and kind of suck it up and get on with life. When in reality, the things that bother men are no different from the things that bother women, right? So I think men are definitely have to be their biggest health advocates, especially when it comes to mental health. And so those numbers are difficult to really kind of get a firm grip on because how many people are not reporting their depression? And I think that's a common thing, especially when it comes to depression, is people are so quick to say, no, I'm good, I'm fine. When in reality, they're needing supports, right? So let's see, we got some comments in the questions here. Yeah, and that's another thing too. This is not Indigenous centric. This is kind of Canada wide. And I would definitely lean to say that number is drastically higher within First Nations communities, without a doubt. Yeah, good call. Yeah, Charles, for sure. First number is probably realistic. The second one goes with what's reported. And you see that trend with, the big names that we're familiar with when it comes to mental health and depression, like, the Robin Williamses of the world and things like that. People who are like very, the last people you would think are suffering from mental health are really just really good at covering it up. So I think what's really important here is that we encourage men and we offer opportunities for guys to get together and, different men's circles, cultural activities and stuff like that, just connecting people together and giving a safe space for people to share what's weighing them down is a really good thing. And especially if it doesn't have to be official. I mean, just reaching out to a friend and family. I know we've had a lot of losses in our community in this past 2 years and beyond, but a common message that I see is that people encouraging people, if you're ever struggling, reach out for help. And it doesn't matter what time of day, right? So super, super, super important discussion to have, and not one that happens frequently. So let's move on. to our next question. I believe we're on number 8 already. Yep. At what age should you begin having your cholesterol checked regularly? Oh, dang it. I gotta remember to share my results before we move on. That was them. This is us here. At what age should you begin having your cholesterol checked regularly? Is it A, 55 years old, 55 years young? Is it B, 35 years young? C, 50 on the dot? Or is it D, 65 years? Yeah, miigwech, Charles. Yeah, Keanu Reeves. At what age should we begin having our cholesterol checked regularly? Ooh, all right, we're getting up there. 19 out of 22 voters. Let's close out the polling and we'll see what our results are. Share the results with you here. I've done that officially now, so I'll have to do it next time after we moving on. Majority of people say 35 is when you should begin having your cholesterol checked regularly. Now let's check out and see what we got here for stats. Majority of folks are correct. B, 35 is when we should start having our cholesterol checked regularly. And like, what is cholesterol? Well, cholesterol is it's a buildup in the blood vessels, and it's restricting our blood flow. High cholesterol means more restricted blood flow, and that restriction could lead to things such as like a heart attack or stroke. When we're thinking about diabetes and maintaining a really well operating circulatory system, we want to make sure that blood is flowing as freely as possible, especially to our lower extremities for people suffering from any of the complications that go along with diabetes. So 35 is a great year to get it started out. Check out your family doctor. There's a lot that we can eat, like foods that we can eat to lower our cholesterol. And again, we think back to that earlier point about everything that we can do to prevent the onset of chronic disease, and like eating nutritiously is in there as well as exercise, right? So I think that definitely goes to support those living with diabetes, but it also goes to support cholesterol levels as well, right? High fiber diet, lots of water, and regular exercise will help clear out those veins, right? And get things moving along much better. So 35, get screened. I guess that puts me, I've never been screened for high cholesterol, and like I never really thought about it, to be honest, until I'm like literally looking at it right now. And I don't know the availability for getting a checkup on that, but it's definitely on my list. Very good. So let's go check out our next question. Fiber brings out the best in people. Yeah, it does. How often should you have your blood pressure checked? I definitely shared that before we moved on, so I think Zoom was just giving me the gears. How often should you have your blood pressure checked? Is it A, once every 5 years? B, once a month? C, every 2 years? D, every 10 years? And there should be an extra option. I'll give you guys the freebie to say, like, this is just as as an overestimate, like general kind of estimate, because there's an answer in here that's not on there, and it's whenever your doctor tells you. Let's close it out and let's look at what it is. So most people say once a month. Every 2 years. Okay. Interesting thing about blood pressure. So from what I've read, the most you should be going between blood pressure checks is 2 years. And to me, that sounds really, really far apart between checks. And for myself, to be honest, I don't think it's been like 10, 12 years since I checked my blood pressure, at least, right? And even then, when I had checked previously, it was just the novelty of going into Shoppers Drug Mart and seeing the blood pressure testing machine. Or no, wait, they do it at my doctor's office as well. And that's probably been like 5 or 6 years anyways. So everybody is different, but depending on what your doctor's recommendations are, you could be testing your blood pressure yearly. You could be testing your blood pressure monthly. You could also be testing your blood pressure daily, if not multiple times a day. And some of the literature I've read supports, testing first thing in the morning and then testing later on throughout the day to get these accurate readings to see how everything's working. So I guess from what I read at first, it was like, don't go longer than 2 years, but that's a long time. So I think once a month, majority of people said once a month, some people said once a year. I think both of those kind of are casually correct, but depending on what your doctor's recommendations are, it could be much more than that. Yeah, and I guess what they consider high blood pressure to be is 140/90. Something to think about as well. Fiber does bring out the best of people. I keep looking at that. Question number 10. We're halfway there. Holy smokes. If you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, what other diseases should you also be screened for? Let's bring out the question. Are we looking to screen for hepatitis? Are we looking to screen for diabetes? Are we looking to screen for glaucoma? Or are we looking to screen for gout? If you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, what should we also be screening for? I think it's kind of like a tricky question because, especially when we're promoting regular screening, like across the board, I guess an appropriate answer would be for all of them. But I guess the condition that in this one is most specifically what's connected to things like high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So let's close it out. Share the results. Majority of folks say diabetes. Although a close second and third are glaucoma and gout. I can heart disease. So let's check it out. Yes, majority of people who answered diabetes is correct. So high blood pressure and hypertension, there's comorbidities and complications across the board and have a huge connection to diabetes itself. So if you have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, we should be getting screened for diabetes. If you're having diabetes, we should be getting and monitoring your blood pressure and your cholesterol levels as well. They kind of walk hand in hand. And very important that we are, like I said, fitting in that nutrition and getting that exercise and stuff as much as we possibly can, because that goes to support our health against so many conditions. So very, 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 very important. Heart disease for sure. Stroke, all of these are all connected. Move on to our 11th question. This is a good question. The majority of men's chronic health conditions are genetic. Let me bring it up here for you. The majority of men's health conditions, chronic health conditions, are genetic. The majority of chronic men's health conditions are genetic. True or false? A tricky one. All right, we got 17 in. 18. Give you a couple more seconds. Genetic chronic disease. Let's close it out. Let's see what our results are. Majority say false. 22% say true. So, so let's stop the share and let's check it out. True or false? The majority of men's chronic health conditions are genetic. The correct answer is false. Only 30% of health conditions are genetic. 30%. unavoidable, and that's coming down through our parents, which means that the other 70% of, well, I guess the good news is the other 70% of chronic health conditions we have a huge amount of control over in our efforts to prevent. So that's good to know. I mean, I think with things like that, especially since like diabetes runs on my mom's side of the family. My dad, like I said, was just recently diagnosed and kind of went through the motions with Crohn's and things like that. And so, I mean, there's a lot of discussion in and around genetic disease in our home as well. So, but it's good that 70% of it is not. So we can do all sorts of great stuff to prevent for the majority of diseases. So that's a good thing. Let's check out our next question. Number 12, men are more likely to die from diabetes complications than their women counterparts. So let's check this out. Men are more likely to die from diabetes complications than women. True is off to a head start. False is in there as well. Men are more likely to die from diabetes complications than women. I think we got where we need to be. Close it out. Majority say true, that men are likely to die more likely to die from diabetes complications. Share the results. 83% say true, 17% say false. Let's check out and see what the answer in fact is. Answer is true, not by much, but Canadian men are 57% more likely to die from diabetes complications than women. A lot of this gets connected back to our approach to self-care, our own advocacy for getting in to see our family doctors, this societal view that men are, rough, tough guys and that we don't need doctors, which is not the case, right? So there's a lot of factors that contribute to this, but all the more reason to promote regular screening, especially when it comes to diabetes and managing everything that comes along with it. So definitely us guys got to kind of pick up our socks a little bit and make sure that there's a lot we can do to even this out. And it's as simple as getting in for regular screening. I have a comment here from Amanda. I personally find that men don't manage their diabetes. And I think that this statistic goes to support that, you can't speak for everyone, but kind of the question we got to ask ourselves is like, what is it that makes these numbers the way they are? And really happy to see some guys in the audience today, which is really good because we're doing our thing to even that out, right? But just by you being here and having these discussions. So miigwech for being here. But yeah, definitely one in here. Charles saying men are more likely to ignore and avoid medical problems. If I don't know about it and I don't, is it gonna bother me? Like if I just ignore it, right? It's a common thing. I mean, a lot of people I see that, and sometimes even myself. I'll tell you a funny story. I got hung up on a rusty fence going to get a basketball one time, and I had to get a tetanus shot. But I didn't even want to go in to get a tetanus shot. Like I had to get there. Like you got it. I'm not a big fan of needles and things like that. But if it was up to me, I would have not. But thankfully, I have a great circle of friends, and they said, "Get over there. You're getting a shot." So. How much control depends on heavily ethno-cultural backgrounds and economic situations. I agree with that. Depends on the individual. Yeah, definitely depends on the individual. So let's move on to our 13th question, and that is, what is an HbA1c test? What is an HbA1c test? Why is it important? What is an HbA1c test? Is it a measure of the carbohydrates that we're consuming? Is it B, a test designed to measure the amount of protein in your bloodstream? Or is it C, a test designed to measure your average blood glucose level over a period of a couple months? This is really interesting because up until I don't even know 5, 6 years ago, I didn't know what a HbA1c test was, and when somebody said it to me, it sounded like they were talking a whole different language, and I was like, no, I've never gotten that done. Um, but now I can say that I have got it done, and it's really easy. It's an easy test to do. hmm Quick and easy. 72% say it is, oh sorry, 88% say it's a test about to measure our blood glucose, followed by a close 12% saying that it's a measure of the proteins in your bloodstream. Let's close it out and check it out because for sure it has to do with our blood. So majority of people are saying C, blood glucose. Let's have a look here. The correct answer is C. It is a measure of the blood glucose level in your blood, and it takes a picture of the last 3 months and gives you an average. Using a glucometer is really good for like an instant test, and it gives you the level of the glucose in your blood like right then and there. HbA1c is a little bit it takes longer to process the test, but it gives you a really clear picture of an average of your trends over that 3 month period. It doesn't take very long at all. I got mine done at Life Labs. I must have been in and out of there in like 10, 15 minutes, and they got my results back to me within about like a week, maybe a week and a half. And those results came back in PDF form over email, and I was able to kind of print out my sheet, and it gives me all sorts of great statistics and data and information, none of which that I'm qualified to like process and understand. So I was able to take that to my doctor, and they were able to decipher it and let me know clearly where I stood in terms of my blood glucose levels. Yeah, that's for sure. We got one here saying, in the next 5 years, blood glucose will be measured in real time by your smartwatch. I believe that to be true. One from here from Amanda. We are fortunate to have a HbA1c machine here in Wiki. Whoa, that is really fortunate to have, because I guess without that, like the closest you would be going is like, I guess Little Current, maybe, or I don't even know if they process HbA1cs in Little Current. Maybe I'd have to go to like Sudbury. Who knows? I don't know. I've never. Good question. So really good test to get. Doesn't take long at all. So let's move on to our next question. Who do you think, number 14, who do you think is most likely to develop a mental illness? Who do you think is most likely to develop a mental illness? Is it A, artists, musicians, and comedians? B, people with stressful jobs? C, people who abuse alcohol and drugs? Or D, anyone? Who do you think is most likely to develop a mental illness? All right, 17 out of 21, 80%, 85% place their vote. This is an interesting question. This is a challenging question because there's a lot of stigma surrounding mental health. And there's a lot of assumptions that people have and formed over the years. And yeah, tricky question. Let's close it out. Let's share the results of our poll. 83% say anyone. 6% say people who abuse drugs and alcohol. 11% say musicians, artists, and comedians. A lot of stereotyping happens when it comes to mental health. Absolutely. Stop the share and let's check out and see what the facts are on this one. Correct answer is D. Anyone and everyone is susceptible to developing a mental illness. Incredibly diverse group of people who struggle with this, and it knows no boundaries. So I mean, whether your ethnicity or your gender or your social economic status or whatever it is, has very little to do with mental health when it comes to the conditions. I know that there's a lot to be said for people who like it's hard to say, but yeah, anyone and everyone is susceptible to getting developing a mental illness for sure. hmm I think like I said, we see it a lot. It presents itself a lot with the famous people that we know, like the faces of depression, being like your Robin Williams and Chester Bennington and things like that. Like a lot of people who are extremely talented also struggle with it. So, but that's a stereotype as well because I mean anybody can get it. Mhm. But there's a lot of supports and services out there. Super important for people to connect with each other, community, and culture as well. Yeah, really important. There's a lot we can do. Speaking of a lot we can do, our next question is 15. Do you agree or disagree? Exercise can help relieve symptoms of depression. Agree or disagree? Do you believe exercise can help relieve symptoms of depression? Launched it up there. We got a comment in the couple comments in the chat here. A mental health condition is a prerequisite for a career in the arts or entertainment. You know what? You see that a lot, and I think that that's more of a stereotype to the arts than it is to mental health, right? We just, but it's something we definitely see a lot of for sure in the arts community and stuff like that. But there's a lot of stereotyping that happens surrounding it, right? So we have a comment here. We hear about famous people because it's newsworthy, it is. It doesn't really talk about the average person who's suffering from depression. And a lot of times, those numbers don't even really get reported. Like, we don't hear of suicides and things that happen in our community. And it happens more than we know, right? The only time we're really exposed to that is when it's somebody who we know of. But there's a lot of people who are struggling before they get to that point, right? And yeah, it's quite scary. But I think the best we can do is be here for each other as a community and be understanding. Yeah, for sure. So we got majority of people say that they agree. Let's check out the results. 21%, 21 people or 100% people say they agree. Exercise is a good thing to help relieve the symptoms of diabetes or depression. And yes, our poll agrees with you as well. So there's a lot that happens when we get exercising. Our blood gets pumping. We're getting more oxygen to the brain. That chemical like reaction of being active releases things in the brain like serotonin and dopamine. When we're exercising, we're more likely to get a nice restful sleep. We sleep better. That's going to improve our mood. If we're exercising, it's going to, make us hungrier and crave healthy foods. The body just craves it, and those foods have huge, huge effects on the way we think. So there's a lot that exercise does, not only for our physical condition, but also for our mental and emotional condition as well. Obviously, we're talking about symptoms of depression. Sometimes depression is like a clinically depressed, like clinical condition, and obviously there's medication and supports and services in place for those cases. But I think just as an overall view at like when we get into our funks, especially with seasonal affective disorder through the winter time, we're not really feeling like we do now in the summertime, right? So, I mean, exercise is good all year round. So let's check it out. We are getting close here to the time, and we are getting close to the end. We have 4 more questions. Question number 16. Resilience is a word you hear lots when talking about mental health. What is resilience? Is it A, developing an immunity to something like you can do with other disease? Is it B, the ability to bounce back when things don't go necessarily as planned? Or is it C, getting over something after that thing has been bothering you for quite some time? Resilience. What even is resilience? Resilience is a word you hear lots when talking about mental health. What is resilience? We hear a lot of resilience even above and beyond the mental health topic, and that's especially when it comes to like Indigenous people and culture. We are hugely resilient people for kind of still being here after such a long and turbulent history. So resilience, I think, impacts everyone. So I think we got just about everyone. I'm going to close it out. Let's check out the results. Majority of people are saying 83% say the ability to bounce back when things don't go as planned. Followed by a close second, C, getting over something after it's been bothering you for a while, and then A, developing an immunity. Let's check out and see what our answer is. The answer is B, being able to bounce back when things don't go as planned. Our lives never go as planned. It's never a straight line. It's full of ups, it's full of downs. And resiliency is being able to remain optimistic through challenging times. And whether people are doing that through exercise or connecting with culture or use of our traditional medicines and traditional foods, there's a lot we can do to help kind of calm the storm that's in our mind and things like that and focus on the good. So resiliency is definitely being able to bounce back from things when they don't go the way we hope. So let's check out our next question. Resilience is something we can grow. How do we even do this? Let's look at our options. Launch polling. Resilience is something we can develop over time and grow. How do we do this? Is it A, connecting with culture, tradition, language, song, and dance? B, focusing on things that are positive, trying not to see things as a crisis, stressful events, that is, or something that's unbearable. C, building a strong relationship with your community, family, friends, so that you have a real solid support network. Or is it D, taking care to exercise regularly, get enough sleep so you can control your stress? Or is it E, all of them? They all sound pretty good to me. 13% say E, all of the above. All right, 17 people, 100% so far say E. Let's close it out and let's check out the results. Stop share. It is D, or it's E. Wait, what's going on here? Stop share the results. That's supposed to say E. Doing all those things is really good towards building up our resiliency. It all works together. We need a solid support system. We need to feel good about ourselves. Connecting with culture is huge, 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 huge for our mental health. Connecting with our community is good as well. So, I mean, it all works together. There's not one thing on that list that's better than the other. And the correct answer is actually E. So for everyone who got that, you got it right. Very good. Very, very, very good. Let's go. We're in the final stretch here. Only males have a prostate gland. The prostate gland is part of what? Is it A, the digestive system, B, the reproductive system, C, the circulatory system? What is a prostate gland? What does it do? Reproductive system, digestive system. There's a picture of it there on the side. Yeah. Okay. Close it out here. Majority of folks say that it is B, the reproductive system. Let's check it out. There's a picture of a prostate right there. It's B. It's part of the reproductive system. It's about the shape of a walnut, and it can grow in size as men age. And prostate exams there's a couple of ways you can get a prostate exam. That's from blood samples. You can go in and a doctor can check for abnormalities and things like that. And then they can also do a biopsy and take a tissue sample. But it's important that men get screened regularly and check out for prostate health. So much, in fact, that we have a whole month dedicated to it, which is November, Men's Prostate Health Month. So yeah, super, super, super important. So let's close it out here. We got 19, our second last question. What statement about maintaining good prostate health do you think is true? What about prostate health do you think is true? Men who are more physically active are less likely to suffer from an enlarged prostate, one of the conditions that affect our prostate health. Uh, Having a diet that's low in sugar, processed foods, and saturated fats is good for prostate health. C, what's good for your heart is good for your prostate. Or D, all of these are true. Super good. I'm going to close it out. 17. Share the results. Majority of people, 100%, say all of these statements are in fact true. I would have to agree. Everything, plenty of exercise, nutrition, that diet that's low in sugar, processed foods, all that stuff's going to help our prostate out. And important to get screened early, regularly. I guess people normally get in to see their prostates like into their sometimes in their 30s, into their definitely in their 40s. Because I had a close friend of mine, like my best friend since childhood, just got an exam probably going about a month and a half ago, and he's 38. So important thing to get checked out. Our final question for the day, we made it, is that the heart is an incredibly efficient pump. Over your lifetime, how many barrels, as in kind of those industrial barrels, how many barrels do you think that your blood pumps, that your heart pumps? How many barrels of blood does your heart pump over your lifetime? Is it 10 million barrels? 1 million barrels? Or 100,000 barrels of blood? You know, those big industrial barrels that we're talking about. That's a good question. How much blood do we pump in our lifetime? It's interesting. It's an interesting question. It's an interesting answer. 50% say 10 million barrels. 38% say 1 million barrels. Charles said, or Jay says 10 million barrels because I want to live till I'm 120. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Uh, Depends on your lifetime. That's true. That's true. Okay, so let's close it out here and let's see what we got here. Share the results. Majority of people say 10 million barrels of blood are heart pumps in our life. The correct answer to that is B. 1 million barrels of blood. This is all our blood, but it moves around. 1 million barrels worth. Over 100,000 kilometers through 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels. So like, it's super, super important. You know, when we think about things like cholesterol, a restricted blood vessel will put strain on the heart when it's moving that million barrels around throughout your lifetime. So you want to keep that good and clean. Blood glucose levels, you know, if you're putting mileage, 100,000 kilometers of travel time, like we want to make sure that our blood is not causing any abrasions or scarring and things like that from our head to our toe. So the body is a really incredible, incredible, incredible thing. Um, so yeah, that's our quiz. And you know what? Let's think about three major takeaways before we break. We're right here on the hour. Sometimes I get chatty. But huge, huge takeaways here. One, risk is modifiable. So we think about that 30% of disease is genetic, the other 70% we have a huge control over. And this guy's kind of like stopping those dominoes. I think that's right on. B, or two, culture equals wellness. So, you know, whether it's our mental health, whether it's for men and people suffering from depression, or it's the physical demand of dance, it's that stress relieving component of crafting and making like regalias or anything that's, you know, anything of the many things we make and are awesome at. Culture is a huge thing, and being able to connect that, especially like an ancestral diet as well. Maybe even like hunting is a great physical activity. It's all good. And The final key takeaway is diet and exercise plays a way bigger role than we give it credit. I mean, like we know that it does a lot for us, but um, it's consistent across the board that it does a lot for us in not only the idea of preventing and managing our diabetes, but even everything: blood pressure, cholesterol, heart, stroke, you know, prostate health. It's all there. So, as men, we can preserve our health by being our own advocates and checking ourselves regularly, getting screened regularly, talking and reaching out to each other when we think somebody's having a hard time, or just making sure that people know that our home is an open door for that discussion, right? Super, super, super important. And happy Father's Day for all the dads out there.